OpenAI, Claude, or Kimi, whichever the case may be. You can just define a model here. Good day, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the small agents framework. And what is the small agents framework? So it's a Python library built by Huggingface, open source, and basically allows you build your agentic workflows. It provides functionalities that helps you build your agents, the required tools, also manage memory, as well as output structured JSON responses between agents. Passes it across the workflow, and with tools you can search databases. It provides tools that you can query web search APIs, search databases, and it's really fast. The learning curve is not steep as the others, very quick to learn, and yeah, it's really helpful. There are alternatives like the land graph. The land graph is quite sophisticated, unlike small agents. Also enables you build agentic workflows, but land graph provides the out of the box solutions for checkpointing, sharing states across shared states across agents. Maybe you want to do complex branching. Land graph helps with that, and it's more production friendly. A small agent can also be used for deploying production workflows, but something not too complex, and that will require um, a lot of would I say people now to manage, or people that would receive the outputs and the nuances. But small agents is helpful for your agentic workflows. So, and for this session we're going to be looking at a use case, and that is how to handle quote requests from customers. So customers send in quotes requests and say, oh, how much is this amount of items? In this case now, the business sells paper, so A4 paper, A3, A2 large sheets, as much as 100, 200 rows, colored sheets. So this variety of paper, and you know the business wants to answer all these quote requests coming in. The option is to hire somebody that would run that process for every request, get the quote history, check the inventory if these items are available, and the stock, then eventually send you know the quote to the customer. And basically that's what this agent does. He first of all gets the request, then sends it to the inventory agent. The inventory agent checks the items metadata for from the SQLDB. Um, then there's a tool for interacting with the SQLDB. Then it also checks the stock, and if there's no stock, enough stock, it reorders. Uh, if there's enough stock, then it generates the quote, but it has to check the quote history to see how it has treated similar quotes, in the past, and how it handled that information, how it incorporated that probably discounts or promotions. Then the sales agent fulfills the order, sends the information back to the customer with the available, with the cost, with the defined cost, saying, okay, this amount is going to cost this, this number of sheets or rolls of paper is going to cost this amount of money, and the customer can either act on it by placing an order, or maybe inquire more as the case may be. So, but basically that workflow can be handled by an agent, by agents, multiple agents, the orchestrator agent, the inventory agent, the quotes agent, and the other agents. And yeah, it's we're going to look at, first of all, we're going to run the code to have a look at how the agents work. You know, we this is a sample of the request we're going to be passing in. If you look at this now, you see this is like a CSV file containing request. This is from my office manager. I would like to request following paper supplies. So these are the papers that have been requested. There's a time as well, and this is another request to 500 sheets of colorful poster paper. And these are the agents. These are the agents. These are the agents are defined in the small agent framework. You pass in the tools. These are the tools and the model. The tool is the tool. You have to add this decorator tool so that the agent first of all identifies the tool, and it's able to make use of the decorator patterns that come with the annotation. And once you've passed in the tool, this is also the model. You can define any model, be it API, Claude, OpenAI, Claude, or Kimi, whichever the case may be. You can just define a model here. And this is database. Yeah, this inits the database, and since this is a demo, so we're going to be making use of some generated data, and just talking database so that the agents can query this database and get whatever information they need. And then other functions that will help the agents, help the tools run, because the tools uh, has different it needs different functions to fully execute what it intends to. So we'll now run the project. um, we'll run the project, and we could see how small agents works. And you see it first of all takes the request. Then this is the prompt. This prompt tells it to process the customer request by calling a certain tool, and it passes in the customer request as a JSON. It's better to structure these things, the outputs or inputs, or when you're passing data as JSON, because there's a lot of failure. If you pass it as a string, it's prone to failure. It's prone to failure. If you pass as a string, it's prone to failure. But with the structured JSON output or input, it's more reliable. And you can see now that it's done. The two requests is done with the two requests. First of all, it calls the customer request tool to basically orchestrate. This is the customer request loop. It loops the different agents in, and uh, you know the handles the request based on if one is successful or one fails. Basically allows it to retry. And all this is small agents is very minimal, so a lot of all these functionalities, particularly for reliability, like retries, yeah, failovers, you know you have to write those ones into the code yourself, so that if you also want to manage states, like allow two agents to share one state, uh small agent is not adequately equipped for that. Whereas land graph, you can do something like that with land graph. uh, But with small agents, you still get observability into how the outputs. You can see the get metadata tool and get all the metadata. You see items found in inventory. Then check stock. Stock level is adequate for 3 of those items. Then it now once it gets the stock, the quantity and the cost, it now checks the quote. If you generate a competitive quote for items that are not out of stock, use the get quotes tool. Use the get quotes tool to get quotes from the quote history, and this is it now. Sometimes it doesn't find quote history for that particular item, so it uses the existing price, and you can see now that you calculated the quote history. This is the unit price, the total, the line total, and once that is done, it records the sale, and it forwards the output. The output is the final answer. This is what the output looks like. uh, Inventory check, quote check, final answer. You can see the amount. You have the amount for each paper, and here, if this was a production system, there will be an email step where it would automatically send the email to the customer. Or if you want to have a human in the loop, such that before you send out the email, somebody is checking the output, you can as well do that, and someone verifies and checks his output before sending to the customer. So it moves on, picks the second request, the same workflow, calls the different agents, and the agents uses the tools. You can see this is the inventory agent, the get metadata tool, the quotes agent, gets the quotes, calls out the tool, and if the item is out of stock, you can see that, oh, this item is out of stock, so it won't generate the code for items out of stock. And all this you specify in the prompt, to make sure that it doesn't give codes for items out of stock, or provide inaccurate information. That's some of the guardrails you add to it, and here you have it. Allows you run your workflow. You can see the states of the tools, and what tool is being called at what point, the output of that tool, and where next it goes into another agent, and how the flow essentially exists. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know, that's what a small agents allow you to do. See how to define the tools here. Talking about the structured outputs, the memory. You know, sometimes you might want to persist, or you just you want more observability into the runs. You can integrate persistent storage, like DB, or even a file storage, like a log output, and yeah. So you guys can try the framework. Let me know what you think, and how it helps you achieve your own goal, and how you can work on your projects with small agents. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe. We're sharing more content as time goes on. Cheers.